Let me first begin by putting this story into some context. If I were to ask you what's Canada's contribution percentage-wise to worldwide greenhouse gas emissions, what would you say? Well, you would likely think that given all of the constant chatter about it and the amount of money that we're spending tax-wise to fight it, it would be like some alarming number like, I don't know, 15%, 10%, 5%. Well, would you believe it's 1.5%? Now, before you accuse me of being some climate change denier, that's not my number. It's our federal government's, according to government statistics published in August. Yes, folks, Canada was responsible for just 1.5% of worldwide greenhouse gas emissions as of 2019. So, even if we were to plunge Canada into the ice age, shutting down everything, at best, our sacrifice would only reduce greenhouse gas emissions worldwide by an anemic 1.5%. Now, you would think that based on that, the morons at the federal level would take a more measured approach. Not so. Environmental and climate change moron-inster, a new phrase I've coined, Stephen Guilbeault is pushing ahead with new climate regulations, introducing a cap on greenhouse gas emissions impacting Canada's oil and gas sector, regulations which are to be introduced by next year. And I guarantee you, folks, that will be an impact on our pocketbooks. We will have a draft regulation maybe by the spring, at the latest in the first half of the year, Guilbeault told the Canadian press in an interview November 14th in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, where he is attending the 27th United Nations Climate Change Conference, or COP27. We always do well when they attend these events. The goal is to have the complete regulations by maybe before Christmas, which is, record level time to develop regulations, he said, noting that other climate regulations, like introducing a clean fuel standard, took over 5 years. I, for one, would like to see them balance a budget, deliver mail, or maybe even answer the phone in record level time. The federal government introduced its Canada's 2030 emissions reduction plan in March, stating that its aim to reduce nationwide greenhouse gas emissions by 40 to 45% below 2005 levels by 2030. So, let me get this math right. I'm not sure what the levels were in 2005, but according to you morons in Ottawa, it was 1.5% in 2019. So now you basically want to almost cut that in half, which is going to do what for the planet again? And at what cost to us Canadians? The government's National Climate Plan, introduced in December 2020, states a goal of reducing methane emissions from Canada's oil and gas sector by at least 40% by 2025. I know something Ottawa could reduce by 40%, which I'd be very supportive of: their workforce. The government updated that target in March and applied a 75% methane emissions reduction target relative to 2012 levels for 2030. Ottawa further hopes to achieve countrywide net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. The federal government has acknowledged its targets are ambitious, while saying that other countries need to be more ambitious and need to move faster. Ambitious and government. Typically two words you'll never hear uttered in the same sentence, unless, of course, it's about mandates. With less than a decade left to achieve Canada's 2030 target, and with countries around the world moving to a cleaner economy to attract investment and secure jobs for their citizens, more action is required, reads the government's 2020 propaganda climate plan titled A Healthy Environment and a Healthy Economy. What countries would these be where this is happening? You mean like China, India, for instance? Are they moving towards all this? The federal government has said that an oil and gas emissions cap would hold the sector accountable for its emissions and require them to adopt practices in line with Canada's 2030 emission reduction plan. Well, practices that, they want them to adopt, that they put in place, that are based on their own ideas. However, Ottawa also maintains that the cap will focus on emissions and will not be a cap on oil and gas production. According to them, it will maximize opportunities to invest in decarbonizing the sector while accounting for evolving energy security considerations, and it will be designed to manage competitiveness challenges and minimize carbon leakage risks, reads a government paper titled Oil and Gas Emissions Cap. Only government can say so much and have it mean so little. How exactly are these companies going to achieve these targets, Stephen? Obviously, they're going to have to invest heavily in technologies or measures allowing them to do so, some of which don't even exist today. How are they going to recover the cost without passing it on to, the end user, us? Not only that, but given the desire of climate alarmists such as yourselves to phase out oil and gas in favor of newer, greener alternatives, what sane CEO would invest heavily with the hopes of never being able to recover these costs? I know, that's how you and your buddies in Ottawa operate, Stephen, but that's because it's not your money. You're good at wasting our tax dollars, and it's a pastime for you folks. Yesterday, Gilbo also rolled out Canada's Global Carbon Pricing Challenge, introduced by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at last year's UN Climate Change Conference in Glasgow, Scotland. It's amazing that they can't do any of these virtually. They have to fly all over the world. The challenge will call on countries to adopt pollution pricing as a central part of their climate strategies. Well, and I wonder who will pay for that kind of pollution pricing. Carbon pricing works by putting a cost on the thing we don't want, pollution, reads an Environment Canada news release published on November 14th. I can tell you that's not the only thing Canadians don't want, Mr. Prime Minister. Conservatives have criticized parts of the Liberals' climate plan, particularly the planned increase of the carbon tax in March 2023, with leader Pierre Poilievre calling the government's actions a tax plan which will overall fail to reduce emissions. The Prime Minister's carbon tax has not hit a single solitary emissions reduction target. It has not worked, Poilievre said in the House on October 5th. Was it ever expected to, Pierre? Ottawa, after all, it's a place where good ideas go to die and bad ideas have a life of their own. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can also follow me on my Rumble on my Locals account. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you're already subscribed, check out some of the other videos, and I will see you next time.